Hey folks, MasakoX here. Are you sitting comfortably? Well, I hope you would be after 10 parts of this thing. We'll be getting into double figures with the story that has come all the way from the first arc of Dragon Ball and is now getting into the realms of the Namek saga. This time around, we have Chi-Chi joining the party, having been in a much greater capacity here than she had ever been in the likes of Dragon Ball Z. Even though she may be now wanting to pare back some of her involvement as age comes to be a factor, and her previous goals having been met, sort of like with Gine in her story on this channel, there are things out there which just won't let her quit right now. So, we resume our story in question. If Chi-Chi were a Dragon Team fighter, would it make a difference? More so than you think. In the last part, Chi-Chi had been revived and had been taught well on King Kai's planet, thanks to her training in magedom. This meant she could handle the Spirit Bomb, an external summoner of power, much faster and easier than Goku did in the original, and that led to her playing her part in stopping Vegeta. With her additional input, oversight and planning, the martial arts team on Earth were able to train not only more in sync, but also with the additional bonus of gravity training much earlier, with Bulma coming good thanks to her being in a very good mood and buoyant from her casual conquering of space travel. But, despite all of this, you couldn't sway Gohan fully from his naive and brainwashed idolization of Vegeta, all from Raditz trying to get him to shut up and stop crying. This resulted in him willingly escaping Earth with the prince, and now the Dragon Team having to go to Namek. Not to wish anyone back, but to stop Vegeta from using them to his own ends and getting Gohan back themselves. Again. Now that we've mentioned Gohan, we must head to space, and what Vegeta is going to do with the kid. He himself needs to be healed up in the medical bay, but this place was where Raditz was last heard from. He instructed the boy to go hang out with Raditz until he was fully recovered, and then after that, they were going to go on a little vacation to a place called Namek, the place where the Dragon Balls were first created, supposedly. And that intrigued Gohan, so he would put up with spending some more time with Uncle Raditz, despite Gohan having far less attachment to him. Sure enough, Raditz had been benched from the front line, with no Vegeta and Nappa to accompany him. Frieza's orders, apparently. So when he saw the prince in the med bay and then Gohan back here, he quickly discovered that Nappa had been killed by the Green Man. Good. That big brute made fun of him so much, his own stupidity and cockiness got the better of him, whilst he, the great Raditz, had lived. Hey, any timeline where Raditz gets to live is a plus for us, right? So whilst Gohan's brain is being pumped with Saiyan rhetoric again, Bulma has finished mocking up a spaceship capable of housing multiple occupants and a beefed up gravity chamber, like the one in the original, only with more living space this time out. Goku and Chi-Chi would lead the charge, and this time Krillin chose to stay behind with Piccolo, Tenshinhan and Yamcha going with. That last battle made me realize that I've been slacking. I'm gonna stay here and hold the fort. I'll be training though, but I feel like right now I won't be of much help. Chi-Chi was sad to see her friend bailing, but she knew he was right. At least he was being realistic. He was lucky to have gotten out of there without Piccolo's help, and if he felt more useful defending Earth, then he should be allowed to do so. It made logical sense. With one last wave, the group flew off into the stars and off for Namek, the coordinates sourced from Kami's old ship, which had been now retired for a second time. Krillin was sad to not be going, but he had his own plan. He was going to learn Kaioken better, use the gravity chamber at Capsule Corp to be ready for any potential space badnik who would dare show up. Hey, if Raditz tried to give it another whack, then that's for breaking Kami House, you filthy monkey! When Vegeta had recovered and he and Gohan slipped away to Namek with Raditz providing cover, our heroes were also busy training. Chi-Chi had a small head start in terms of gravity training, but Goku's Saiyan nature and general tenacity, as well as Piccolo's toughness and recovery abilities, started to mean they caught up, and soon were very close to surpassing her. Granted, she had magical advantages, but her physical strength could only go so far. But that didn't mean she was going to stop or slow down at the moment. Despite Gohan going off on his own volition, she had to be certain that he would come back and stay on Earth, not pull that stunt again. Maybe they could use the Dragon Balls to make Gohan forget about Vegeta. It's an idea. And as a result of this rapid training and multiple fighters on board, The results were far greater, whilst the wear and tear to this craft was more so. It got to the point that when they approached Namek, it was very touch and go whether the ship could actually make it back to Earth in one piece. So they had to take it easy in the last day or so. Despite this though, their powers were mighty. But they still discovered when they landed, they were all too late. Not only were Vegeta and Gohan already on Namek, they could sense the kid, but there was another, even more terrifying power. The Frieza Force had arrived before either of them, and were already gathering the Dragon Balls. Yeah, turns out Vegeta was right. The place did have Dragon Balls. With all of the crew present, they could sense that the powers here weren't all that great. Well, except for that giant freaking one who must be that Frieza guy that King Kai had mentioned in his little pep talk they had when they were about to land. In fact, they could sort of sense the Emperor's power from space. They hadn't even landed yet. That's how big it was. By masking their power levels, they quickly found a base in a cave before using Bulma's dragon radar she had given them. Maybe if these balls, should they actually exist, were like their ones, they might be on the same frequency and it could work. Sure enough, it did, albeit with a little tweaking. 3 had been collected, so it stood to reason that they set about going to find the ones that hadn't been. Goku and Chi-Chi went to trace Gohan's energy, since Vegeta wouldn't be that far behind him, whereas Tenshinhan and Yamcha went in the direction of what would become Guru's tower. Goku and Chi-Chi find Gohan and Vegeta in a village, and there had been a bloodbath. Vegeta was talking to Gohan, him clutching a Dragon Ball on the crook of his arm, whilst Gohan was heavily breathing. Chi-Chi was shocked. Had that monster taught her own baby boy to kill? That was it. Without further thought, Chi-Chi surged forward and got into a massive fight with Vegeta. Thanks to her gains with gravity training with Goku and the others, this battle was rather one-sided. Vegeta was left without the chance to counter. Yeah, her power was pretty much on the north end of 70,000, with Goku being at 100,000. But they only kept that power up for a brief spell, so as to not attract too much attention from that Freezy Pop guy. Fortunately, this battle did have another positive effect. Gohan saw the whole thing go down, his mother kicking Vegeta's butt in such a cool manner. She was wiping the floor with someone he had supposedly admired. And when Vegeta was on the floor, coughing and spluttering, Gohan walked over to him and kicked him whilst he was down.
I thought you were cool. Now you're nothing but a weakling. You can find your own Dragon Balls.
And they simply left him there, at the mercy of Zarbon and Dodoria, when they later went to check out the scene. When they had gotten away, Gohan explained that he couldn't bring himself to kill anyone. It was too much pressure, despite Vegeta trying to sugarcoat it. Chi-Chi was relieved to hear that, but they were still disappointed in Gohan running away like that. But to make up for it, and to ensure it wouldn't happen again, Chi-Chi promised to train with him more, help make use of his latent power. That did cheer him up, but funny you should mention latent power. The trio then go to check on Yamcha and Tenshinhan, them having picked up Vegeta's Dragon Ball from just now. They found them at Guru's tower with Nail ready to defend should they be troublesome, despite their power being greater. When it was clear that they were part of the good guys, they were summoned inside and introduced to Guru, whom had bestowed great gifts on their friends. Yamcha told them Guru could unlock your hidden potential, and that they should really give it a try if they wanted to perhaps go after the big bad power they all felt, as well as maybe to help with the Namekians from being caught in the crossfire. So they all accepted it, including Goku. Yes, he doesn't like handouts usually, but he didn't want to fall behind Chi-Chi, as otherwise it would take ages to catch up again. So all of them get a buff, which means Chi-Chi's power is now in the 6-figure category. Guru noting that her arcane well was larger than she thought. But despite this compliment, that didn't sway her from a desire to retire in the not too distant future. Goku was sad to hear this, but this wasn't the time to be upset. They had a job to do. Goku's power was now up to the 300,000 range, and with Kaioken, woof! This sudden gain just made it clear to everyone there that Goku's Saiyan characteristics were not to be sniffed at. But sadly, this didn't go unnoticed. Frieza's scouter exploded when he felt a power spike past 250,000. That meant there was no time to call the good news. Frieza had to step in himself, Zarbon and Dodoria begged their boss to reconsider, to which their master angrily responded,
This power, if the scout was accurate, would mean they'd be wiped out before they finished their moronic dance. No, this requires a more personal touch.
With that, the duo were left to wonder what would happen. Well, I'll tell you what happens. Frieza and Goku fight, with Chi-Chi acting as support. Despite everyone getting a buff, these two alone were strong enough to take on Frieza in any meaningful way, with Piccolo acting as a guardian to Gohan. The Namekian cursed that his potential gain was relatively small, and this is when Nail proposed the idea of fusion. That could mean they could help too. He was listening, thusly taking Piccolo's attention off Gohan for just a moment. As you could tell, when Goku used Kaioken times 3, it decimated Frieza in his first form. The Lizard King wasn't so fussed though, as he could show off his second form, to which he did. This was a little tougher. Goku didn't want to go all out just yet, as this could lead to something rather dire happening. But then something else occurred. Gohan caught Frieza's interest. He recognized that one from when Vegeta reported back on Planet 79. He had registered an Earth Kid. Clearly, this was important to these goons. So, he fired True, a death beam, which struck Gohan in the chest, killing him stone dead. Piccolo was aghast that he had been distracted. Goku, well, was really mad, as was Chi-Chi. As Piccolo demanded Nail to fuse with him right now to make up for this momentary lapse in judgment, Goku's inner Saiyan power exploded, whilst Chi-Chi's inner beast erupted in the strongest instant she had ever shown or anyone had seen. The loss of their child, whilst rectifiable, was still painful to see. No child should have to feel death like that. Goku went Super Saiyan for the first time, whilst Chi-Chi buffed up, her muscles bulging, white-hot horns forming at her temples, and her face mad with maternal anger. Both of them were gunning for Frieza. And since Frieza couldn't sense energy, he didn't realize the enormity of his mistake.
Oh, please. I could still transform you.
But his sentence was cut short when Chi-Chi force-pushed a telekinetic punch, which not only winded Frieza, but held him in place in the air so he couldn't move. What was that? It felt like a space train had hit him across the face many times over. All of this left Goku free to repeatedly deck Frieza in the schnoz, and since Frieza couldn't move to activate his third form, he was unable to do anything. In the end, a now fused Piccolo joined in, as well as to make up for his error, and made things even worse for Frieza. And in the end, Goku launched an angry Kamehameha full power at the Emperor, promptly vaporizing him. Frieza was no more. It had only dawned on them all what Goku had just done. He had transformed into a golden warrior. But he couldn't process any of this since he had fainted due to the sheer pressure and strain it had caused him. Chi-Chi also fell to the ground, barely awake. But she had been floored with how strong that buff from Guru had made her. What was in that? Piccolo walked over to them, apologizing for his selfish behavior and allowing Gohan to be killed like that. But then was reminded by the sight of the Dragon Balls. They could fix it right now, and fix it they did. When the Dragon Balls were gathered and Porunga was summoned, they wished for Gohan to be brought back to life, the damage caused by Frieza and his men to be repaired, and then, well, Chi-Chi asked Gohan, "Would you like us to remove Vegeta from your memories, sweetie?"
Mom? No thank you. I feel like it's part of me now. But I know that he isn't the bee's knees. I'd rather remember how not to behave.
Chi-Chi smiled and went with it. So, what's going to be the third wish? Well, that was to fix their ship so they could make it home safely, and of course do a little bit of training. Guru said to them that the Dragon Balls on Namek are usable again in 4 Earth months, so they could be used to bring back any other Namekians that had passed. But Goku wouldn't have it. He said that once they got back to Earth, they will use their set to do it much faster. Guru was pleased for this gesture of kindness. They had made good friends. When they got home, Goku followed up on his promise and wished back the remaining Namekian casualties. All was good. As for Zarbon, Dodoria and Vegeta, well, they had King Cold to answer to, and he wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. Let's just say that. Vegeta told the king to head for Earth, and he wished to accompany him to get his own back at that Earth woman who pummeled him. King Cold was okay with this, since Vegeta knew the way to Earth, It mattered not. Cold had other plans. As they were planning their revenge against Frieza, Chi-Chi had kept her promise to train Gohan in how to use his inner mana to mix with his Saiyan ability and martial arts, something of which to pass on to the next generation when she could finally rest and look after her family. Everyone had been buoyed by this victory and kept training after receiving this buff, which made Krillin extra jealous despite his own gains. Yeah, maybe he should have gone with them after all. However, the time came when Cold landed on Earth and the gang had to be ready. This time, Goku with them, unlike the original. But even he wasn't needed. Despite Cold ready to talk with Goku, another entity made himself known. A young man, wearing a purple jacket but not sporting lavender hair or blue eyes, faced off against the king. Who was this guy? But that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you folks think? Which future boy is this? Is it Gohan perhaps? Or someone else entirely? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I will see you in the next video. Catch you later!